This is an Aston Martin Vantage, one of the most beautiful and best-selling Aston Martins of all time. And well, this is my Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Yeah, it's bad. Sadly, this car has spent most of its life in a scrapyard after sustaining what I can see as a rather minor accident in the rear end. And over the years, almost all of its parts have been harvested, as you can see. In the United Kingdom, when a car is crashed, it is written off. And when a car is written off, it is given a category, and the category dictates whether the car can ever be rebuilt and seen on the road again. Unfortunately, this car cannot be rebuilt in its original form, not to mention it would be incredibly uneconomical to do so. Meanwhile, this is a Land Rover Discovery 1, the first iteration of a car that would bridge the gap between the beastly Defender and the rather luxurious Range Rover. But in the case of this one, the body is completely rotten. And in today's market, when around £2,000 you can get quite a good Discovery, again, it is completely uneconomical to restore. Two British icons that sadly have seen better days, to say the least. Though a small but important detail got me thinking, and that is they share almost the identical wheelbase. And in the wake of an era where supercar manufacturers are making these hybrid off-road supercars, I started to plan a little idea. The Discovery has a completely rotted out body, however, the chassis and the engine are incredibly good. While the Aston has no mechanical components, but the tub is very good and body panels are very accessible and very affordable, I think you can see where I'm going with this. So that is the question. Can we make a car that one with sound mind could never conceive? Taking the good, removing the bad, and making one, and allowing these two cars to escape the scrapyard just a little longer. So, if my calculations are correct, and they're usually not, the next step is to strip this down. And lucky for me, it's just started raining. Well, there we have it. That is phase one of the strip down done. Everything that can be unbolted from the exterior is now unbolted, and the transformation is quite remarkable. Obviously, the beauty of these is they're so modular, but yeah, seeing it like this is really quite cool. However, as expected, removing the body panels has exposed even more rust, and it's quite vast. But before I let that get to my head, let's take it for a quick spin. Whoop. Every time I go around a corner, I do almost fall out, which is slightly concerning. And back round again. Okay, this does not feel natural. And it's definitely a little bit breezy in here, but this is cool. I think. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is just incredibly stupid. Which means I like it even more. So stage 2 of the strip down is cutting, the irreversible stage. But this is where it gets a little more complicated. There are 2 ways you can go about this. You can either completely take everything off and try and house every single component inside the Aston somehow, or you can retain a small portion of the bulkhead and see if you can marry the 2. At this stage, I want to keep at least a good portion of the bulkhead so everything's still drivable, and then we can always cut more. It's very easy to take away, it's very hard to put things back. But until we've got the majority of this body off and the Aston body kind of sitting near it, it makes it kind of hard to determine how much of this needs cutting and how much of the Aston needs cutting. It would be a lot simpler to keep a small portion of the bulkhead that houses the pedals, the steering and that sort of thing, and then marrying it to the Aston body by removing that portion. What that looks like, that's for future me to figure out. But right now, let's get cutting. That was held on by a prayer. Well, I feel like a shell of a man after doing that. Admittedly, it was quite an aggressive approach. However, if you were here in person, you would see that almost every single panel is either dented, rusty, torn, something. It's quite remarkable, the extent. Even the windscreen was splintered around the edges, and then obviously the second I did anything, it was just broke more. So now I need to get it off, which I think is going to be quite tricky because it's incredibly heavy. We're also in for a bit of a mess because I can't remove the front screen because of the way it's cracked. I think it's going to have to break further. So it's just part of the course, unfortunately. I think I'm just going to try and fold it off. We'll see how well that goes, but we'll figure it out. Well, that was eventful. Now I've got to clean up all this mess, then we'll take it for a test drive. So there we have it. I've done my best at cleaning it, but I think the next thing is to take it for a test drive and let the wind blow through it and just clean it off a little bit more and enjoy this remarkable creation. My first thoughts are visibility is very good. There's a bit of wind going on. Goggles are a must, as there is quite a lot of glass removing itself naturally as we speak. It felt unnatural before, but it feels a lot more unnatural now. And the risk of falling out seems to have risen. People spend all this money on convertibles and you can just chop the roof off a Land Rover. The only slight drawback I'm realising is you have to dodge branches. Oh, bloody hell. It still is driving fine, you know, it's as boaty as a Land Rover always is, but we have the added advantage of the wind in our hair. You can hear that lovely turbo diesel. This is definitely in the top 5 most stupid things I've done this week. Well, that was good fun. I think that wraps up part 1 for the Overland Aston build. The Discovery has certainly undergone quite a transformation. The practicality of that transformation is still up for debate, but I think it's quite cool. In the next episode, we'll work on removing the back portion of the body. Obviously, the goal is to be left with just a small portion of the bulkhead, and then we will marry the Aston somehow to it. So hopefully in the next one, we'll be able to get the rest of the body off and maybe even mock the Aston body up. I hope you very much enjoyed. I had a great time making this episode. If you did, and even if you didn't, please like, share, subscribe. It really helps me out, helps me keep making these videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon is linked down below, where I post things more or less every day, bonus content, behind the scenes, all that fun stuff. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.